Here is how I connect my two binding strips with a diagonal seam. First, wake up any sleeping pets on your quilt and remove them. I think that how you do things when you're quilting can really be personal preference for a lot of things. And personally, I prefer using a diagonal seam when putting together my binding strips. I will do a vertical seam when I do scrappy binding, but I am not doing that today with these. But I do have another quilt top that needs to be finished that I will be doing scrappy binding. So when I get to that, I will do another video on a vertical seam. Anyway, I start this off by folding my binding strips both back on themselves and trim any extra away that you don't really need. I have a lot extra on both pieces and that's okay. I'm leaving it like this. The two folds between the two ends of the binding should be, I don't know, between 1/8 and 1/4 inch apart. Before unfolding these, I like to make sure that I really press these well with my fingers or take a hair marker, press them down. You could even bring it to your ironing board. You really want to make sure that you can see where that pressed fold is. And my cats cannot get enough of my quilting. Now it is time to unfold these folds and put our binding strips together. First, I take this top piece, open it up, put it right side facing down, and it doesn't really matter if you do the top or bottom first. Then I take this other one, unfold, and do right side facing up. So you need the right sides of the fabric to be facing each other. That is very important. And whatever happens with your quilts on the left side here does not matter. Scrunch it up as much as you want. It does not matter at this point. So we're going to take these two strips, put them right sides facing together, and they need to be perpendicular. I try to find where my fold is that I created. So there should be two lines that intersect, and then I stick a pin right in the middle where those two folds meet. Then I take the other side or the other piece of binding fabric on the bottom here, and I find that exact point on that one and then stick that same pin through the point there. Here I just try to hold that pin in place and get my strips so that I have like a nice more flat surface to work on. And then I kind of rotate them, keeping that pin in place until they are perpendicular, they're intersecting, they make an X like this. There should be 90-degree angles on all four corners, and the folds should line up. And this is where we're going to mark our diagonal line where we're going to sew our seam. So I usually take that center pin and I kind of readjust it and pin it so that sticks, and then I add a few more pins in to keep it nice and lined up. Then I grab a small ruler and a fabric marking pen and draw a line like this from that top corner down to the bottom corner to be a diagonal line, and this is exactly where we're going to sew. The key to getting this sewn nicely is just to make sure it lies really flat when you bring it to your sewing machine. And that's why I like to leave a large gap in between where I started and stopped my binding, because then I have a lot more binding to work with. And once you have done that, always lay it flat. Make sure it's laying flat. Make sure it's laying in the right direction, that we sewed it on right. I cannot tell you how many times I trimmed before doing this step. Then I laid it out just to realize I did it wrong. And then once it looks good, go ahead and trim this back, and then you can finish attaching the binding to that side of your quilt. Do stay tuned. I do plan on doing another video when I do a vertical binding attachment, which is a little easier.